Probably we'll wait for another few minutes before we start.
Okay, inshallah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess everyone is ready. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to everyone. My name is Malik Arman. I'm the Deputy Director for E-Learning Unit at the Center for Professional Development. I will be your moderator for today's session. To gain the barakah for today's event, let's start with the recitation of Ummul Kitab, Al-Fatiha. Okay, so it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our special online seminar today. The title for our seminar today is about ChatGPT hands-on for classroom preparation. So for today's talk, we are going to be listening to Professor Technologist Dr. Mira Kartwii. Let's have a brief introduction about her. So her education is she earns a bachelor degree of Commerce Business Information System, Master of Information Systems, and Doctor of Philosophy in Economics and System Information System from University of Wollongong, Australia. Her current employment, she is now the professor at the Department of Information System, Kuliah of Information and Communication Technology, IIUM. She is the director, and also she is our director at the Center for Professional Development, CPD, IIUM. These are some among some of her achievements. She is the recipient of Australia Postgraduate Award in 2004, awarded the Higher Degree Research Award for Excellence in 2007, and she has been appointed as the Honorary Fellow at the University of Wollongong, Australia in 2011. Her areas of expertise include health informatics, e-commerce, data mining, information strategy, business process improvement, product development, marketing, delivery strategy, workshop facilitation, training, and communications. These are some of the certifications that she has completed. She has completed several certifications on e-learning and data analytics in the data analytics domain. She is also a certified Moodle educator. She is also a fellow and instructor for collaborative online international learning for Berzinji project at the Shenandoah University, United States. She is also an activist, renowned as a passionate and cyber parenting activist. She works closely with schools, and Muslim societies in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Australia to provide awareness for parents and children on the risk of going online. So without further ado, I would like to invite our honorable speaker, Prof. Mira Kartwii, to deliver her talk. Welcome, Prof. Mira.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Malik. Actually, there's a reason why I didn't share with you my biography yesterday. I didn't know that you get all that information. Everything is just a ChatGPT way, I assume, right? So
I use ChatGPT, Prof.
You're well ahead. So okay, you passed the first part.
Hope the information is correct.
Alhamdulillah. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Malik, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Malik, for the kind introductions, for the team from e-learning unit, Sister Nurul, and everyone from CPD, and of course, all the participants. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana li hadza wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadana Allah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh. Alhamdulillah. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us in this session. It's timely that we have this session because I've been receiving some requests and I feel so guilty for not able to have it earlier. But now that we have like 3 weeks away from the beginning of the semester 1, 2023-2024, so I think it's about time for us to just recap, which I'm very sure some of you have used this before, and perhaps we can refine our skills in asking the questions in ChatGPT. But before that, let me just share with you, if this is your first time, which I'm very sure it's not, but just in case any of you are new to ChatGPT, let me give the context of what this technology is all about, so that if you found anything that is odd to your liking, then you know why it gives such answer in the first place. So as the title shows, ChatGPT hands-on, so we will have some hands-on. I will cut the theory to only first 10 minutes or 15 minutes max, and then we can have the hands-on sessions after that. And specifically, what I want to highlight in this particular session is for classroom preparation. So how we can later on align our activities, our contents to what we have planned earlier, or what our team in the faculty in the kuliah have planned earlier when you come up with the course, which I'm very sure it's not the course that comes first, right? It's a program that comes first, and then the course is enabling the program, enabling the students to achieve the program objective. So we want to make sure that it's aligned with the program objective, the PEO, program education outcome, the PLO, program learning outcomes, and of course the course learning outcomes. So we are trying to make sure everything that we are doing in the class is meaningful and purposeful. Okay. So this is the training objectives for today. Just want to make sure that I would be able to focus on these learning objectives as what we are doing in the class. We want to make sure that we achieve the session's objective. So this is the session's objective for today. So by the end of the trainings, I really hope that all participants will be able to identify the advantages, the limitations, the best practices, because we're going to have a look later on how we can actually improve the prompt. We will develop a lesson plan. We will also construct multiple choice questions, and we will design a well-structured rubric for assessment. And if we have time, we will have a look, which because I've already put it here, so it's a contract between facilitators and learners, that we're going to develop a case study that promote critical thinking. So we're going to have a try with some of these activities today. I'm not going to give the definitions, but I asked ChatGPT myself, who are you? And interestingly, ChatGPT said, I am ChatGPT, a computer program developed by OpenAI. I am based on 3.5, GPT 3.5, because I'm using the free one, which is a powerful language model designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the input it received. My purpose is to assist and provide information on a wide range of topics to the best of my knowledge and abilities. And then ChatGPT asks, is there something specific you'd like to know or discuss? Before I ask further, I just want to know, sometimes when you are talking to a stranger, you want to know who the stranger really is, right? So I think as what everybody would do before we engage into further discussions, I want to know whether we really can trust the person. In this case, it, not a person, it's the system. So I asked, what is your limitation? ChatGPT said, I have several limitations, some of which include, I have highlighted, of course, ChatGPT doesn't give me the red ones, but let me help you to highlight the important part for us to ponder upon. The first one is static knowledge. My knowledge is based on the text which was available up to my last training data in September 2021. So this is September 2023. So it's kind of like 2 years. It's kind of some of the informations may be obsolete. I do not have access to real-time informations or events that have occurred after that date. Lack personal experience. I do not have any personal experience, emotions, or consciousness. I provide information and generate text based on patterns, the data I was trained on. But I do not possess subjective experiences. Next, no opinions or belief. I don't have any opinions. I don't have any beliefs or biases. So basically, ChatGPT trying to be as objective as possible using the data that it was trained. And I generate responses based on the input I receive on my training data. Sounds good? Is it all? Unfortunately, it is not, okay? More to come. Number 4, occasional inaccuracies. While I strive for accuracy, I can still generate incorrect and outdated information. It is important to verify critical information independently. I'm designed to follow ethical guidelines and avoid generating content that is inappropriate, offensive, or harmful. However, I may occasionally produce content that inappropriate, offensive, or harmful. Okay, good enough? Okay, because I need to know whether we can actually trust this, because a lot of concern in basically in academic discussion is that, oh, my students is using ChatGPT for writing essay. Oh, my students is so unethical and producing answer using ChatGPT. Now you know the system that they are actually referencing to. So maybe this is something that perhaps everyone can actually highlight to the students. There are a lot of things that they have to be careful of, and you have to be careful of when you are dealing with these systems, because it's not something that is error-free. In fact, it gives 8 potential error in the answer. The next one, long-form content. While I can generate long-form text, my responses may not always be coherent or consistently structured for complex tasks like writing essays or research papers. Later on, I'm going to show you why it may not be consistent, because I asked the same question last night, I get different answer. This morning, I asked the same questions, I got different answer. Okay, and it is important to review and edit the content. Lack of a context awareness. I do not have memory of past interactions within the same conversations. So each query is treated as a separate interactions. Although later on, we can actually see within the same sessions, if it's still within relatively close time, ChatGPT can actually recall the previous questions that you asked, and then it can actually elaborate further. That's what we call as an improving the prompt. The next one is security and privacy. I do not have the ability to access or retrieve personal data unless it has been shared with me during our conversations. I'm not sure whether everyone aware, but we do have, in the world, there are cases in which people unintentionally, I'm not sure whether it's intentional, which I'm very sure it's unintentionally, share personal informations in the ChatGPT. For example, someone is actually writing a letter, and then inside the letter, there's some information, some personal information that needs to be part of the letter. So when you ask the GPT to improve the letter, you also send all those informations, whether the person's IC number, the person address, and whatnot. So I think this is one of the things that we have to be careful of. Keep in mind, it wasn't trying to retrieve, or it wasn't trying to stalk the person, but because you give that information, then ChatGPT, of course, will record that as part of the training data for the future. God forbid, hopefully no one is actually trying to put my information to ChatGPT. And last but not least, remember that while I can provide information and assist with various tasks, it's essential to use critical thinking and consider the limitations when relying on my response. So these provide the context in which by right now we should be able to realize as much as it is meaningful, our purpose still exists. Our purpose as a subject matter expert, our purpose as the faculty members, our purpose as someone who will facilitate learning in the class is still relevant. These tools that we're going to use today is to assist some of the tasks which is trivial, and it may not be something that we would want to spend a lot of time with, because if you have, I usually give this analogy, if you have knife, and a knife can be an effective tool in cooking, but it can also hurt you. How would you actually make sure that the knife makes a meaning to your dishes in your process of cooking? It's how skillful you are in using the tool. So this is just a tool, okay? But how meaningful, like again, we have to make sure that we have the skills to master the tool so that it gives a proper meaning. It is our way of working, our way of, in this case, our way of teaching. All right. Is it okay so far? Is there any concern? No? Okay. If you have any concern, we can actually highlight this here. I promise, I know a lot of students said, not another Kahoot, and this is not Kahoot, and this is the only one, I promise. I'm not going to give you any more questions in Mentimeter. This is the only Mentimeter that I'm going to ask today. I know we are overdosed with all these tools, right? So I think I'm going to use this once today. Let me just, if I'm looking away, I'm sorry, I'm actually looking at another screen. Just want to make sure I have the link so it's easier for everyone to respond. So let me just copy this to the chat box. So, all right. Okay, so it's in the chat box, link to the Mentimeter. Mentimeter is a menti.com in your case. And then the link goes directly to the page where I'm going to ask 2 questions only. I promise. As I said, I promise. I'm not going to ask more than 2 questions in Mentimeter. I'm not going to use another Mentimeter in this session. So this is the only one. Let me just share the page. So okay. Goodness. Okay, so let me just open that here. Okay. Okay, so we have 300, well, we have 300 people here with us today. As of now, we have 50 people have used it, 93. So we are waiting maybe on another 1 minute before we proceed to the next questions. Okay, we just don't feel guilty. No, it's not a bad answer. We're going to learn together, inshallah, today. Okay, right. So I think we have the feel of majority of the participants today have not used ChatGPT, so I should not assume that you are comfortable with the prompts that I will be using later on. So that's why I will try my best to make it as generic as possible. And if you feel you would want to ask questions to sharpen the prompt, just let me know. I will try my best to assist and adapt the prompt to your needs. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's proceed to the next questions. Just one more questions. If I may know, what is your primary concern when you are using ChatGPT in your teaching? Is there any specific concern that you are worried might happen in your class? So please feel free to share. It's anonymous, so there's no right, wrong answer. Okay. Okay, maybe I should hide it first. Okay. Let's just wait for a few more people to share the answer. Okay, so feel free to keep it coming. Okay, later on I will try to go through and see whether I can come up with some materials so that you can actually refer to during your teaching, and perhaps it may reduce your anxieties or concern when you're using ChatGPT in the class. Okay, so let me just share the answer first, but for those of you who are still typing, please don't stop. Okay, so plagiarism, incorrect informations, wrong informations, credibility, misinformations. Okay, which is very much what we've discussed just now, right? That's what the disclaimer from ChatGPT. It doesn't guarantee the accuracy of the answer. Inaccurate, inconsistent, limited ideas, student wrongly used for their task, accuracy. Okay, right. This is great. This is great. So this is what I expected actually, but I think some of this we will discuss in the next few hands-on. But if it's not, I will try my best later on, as I said, if I can come up with something that is usable for everyone to have it with you while you are teaching the course, and you would want to use this in the class as part of the class activities. Okay. So thank you so much. This is really meaningful to me. Okay, let me just go back to the slides. Okay, so now I'm not going to ask this in ChatGPT. I'm not going to ask this in the Mentimeter. Just throw some ideas in the chat box. What is your main goal in teaching? What is success to you? If say I'm working to a class and I do my job, which is teaching, and then when I finish the sessions, I know, yes, I think I have fit my purpose here. I've done my job. I know I have met my goals. So what is your goal in teaching? Feel free to share. Just 1 or 2 keywords will be fine. But what if you feel that you are success in teaching, what is the goal, the parameters that you think that you have achieved your objectives? Okay, wow, it's very deep to educate anak bangsa. So you feel you have achieved something if you have educate. Okay, all right, lifelong learning. So you instill the curiosity, student can understand. Okay, awesome. Student understand the contents, students able to implement, students. Okay, good, mashallah, mashallah. Okay, this is really good. This is really great, mashallah. This is really awesome. So again, keep it coming. I think I would love to learn from people from different domain. What is your success in the class looks like? Because I think this is very important. This is often we don't reflect upon it, but there's a reason why in Islam we have inamal a'malu binniyat, because the intentions actually shape the mindset, shape the mindset, shape the way we're going to talk, the way we're going to interact, the way we're going to prepare the content. That's what comes with intentions, right? Because we know the purpose of our actions. So I've seen a lot of awesome answer, mashallah. I'm going to compile it, and then I'm very sure I will learn from all of you today, and everyone is learning from all of you too. So thank you so much. One thing that I haven't seen a lot is, do you feel satisfied if you have engaged, if the students able to do the task because they feel they clear, there's an alignment that you have from the course outline to the things that they are doing in the class? So if you feel that engagement is important, perhaps you can also jot down something that, okay, next semester, I'm going to do some tasks which engage the students, making sure they understood the task and then they know what they need to do in the class, because I've made it clear since the beginning of the semester on the learning outcomes, on the activities, on the alignment of the activities that we have in the class, and then the rubrics that we're going to use to assess them. So everything is transparent, no biases, no teacher's pet. It's all fair and square. So I think this is what we can do with the tools that we have today. Okay, so thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So now we're going to go with the ChatGPT hands-on, in which we're going to have a look how we're going to get some activities designed in such a way so that we can actually achieve our objectives just now, our main goals in teaching just now. So one of the things that we usually ask when we are preparing a class is lesson plan. However, throughout many training sessions that we have for BTMC, for TIDE, for some of the trainings that we have in CPD, I've been getting a lot of questions, the difference between lesson plan and teaching plan. Because people keep asking, especially when it comes to the course outline requirements, right? You are actually asked to prepare a teaching plan. So I have prepared my teaching plan. Why do I have to prepare a lesson plan? So there's a difference between these two. So this is teaching plan is not lesson plan, and lesson plan is not teaching plan. So anybody would want to share your thoughts, but perhaps before sharing your thoughts, it would be nice to just warm up the skill in asking questions in ChatGPT. So I will copy and paste the prompt. So I have actually copied a link here. Let me just copy this to the chat box again. This is the link in which gradually I will give you the prompt so that you can try in your ChatGPT. So if you haven't been to ChatGPT, you can go to OpenAI, the link that I gave you earlier. I'm not sure, maybe some of you who came late, probably you missed that. But let me see whether I can copy that again. Or anyone have that? Oh, there's a lot of author. Okay, so if you can go to ChatGPT and there's a try, I'm very sure someone have probably shared it. Okay. Awesome. So someone have shared that. So let me just share the link to the file in which I'm going to, as I said earlier, I'm going to share with you gradually the link to the prompt. Okay. Okay. So if you have that, okay, in the chat you have bit.ly 3p geo blah blah blah, and that's actually the link to the prompt. I will be able to see if anyone have started to open this file. Oh, I'm so sorry. Wait a sec. Okay. Okay, so you should be able to see it now. Of course, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I still keep the restrictions. Okay, great. So I can see a lot of people have logged in to the page. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to use the OpenAI, as I said earlier. If you haven't logged in, if this is your first time logged in, you can actually use the, because it has the Google options, right? So you can actually use your IUM account if you want to, or if you have your personal account, you can also use that. I would suggest maybe it's good to have your personal, to log in using your personal Gmail account so that it stays with you, stay with your account, okay? And then let me just copy the first one, as I said earlier, to warm up our ChatGPT prompting today. So I have copy and paste one prompt in which we can actually ask ChatGPT on the difference between lesson plan and teaching plan. I'm trying to make sure that it's easier for me to move. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is what I have this morning when I asked, what is the difference between lesson plan and teaching plan? It was a very short answer, right? But they can have slightly different connotations depending on the context. Here's the explanation. Lesson plan is it has three perspectives: focus, scope, and components. Teaching plan, focus, scope, and components. Lesson plan is typically a single lesson. Teaching plans is broader, more comprehensive. Usually you are talking about a semester or a year. And then when it comes to component, the teaching plan includes elements like overall course goals, learning outcomes, whereas in lesson plan, in teaching plan, you focus on course outcome, learning outcomes, assessment strategies, whereas in lesson plans, you focus more on instructional strategies, timing, assessment method, and so on. Okay, so this is what I have this morning. Yesterday when I'm trying to play around with the prompt, this was the answer, which is a lot more comprehensive. So the purpose, teaching plan is like this, lesson plan is like this, scope, teaching plan, lesson plan, content, flexibility. So teaching plan is a lot more flexible, lesson plan is a lot more rigid, time frame wise, teaching plan. So it's kind of like the way it's being answered are different, but some of the points are very much what we found just now. So I think this is what we have to anticipate. Not necessarily you are using the same prompt, you will get the same results. And this is again depend when you actually ask the questions, which part of the data sets was actually retrieved by ChatGPT to formulate the answer for you. Remember that also need to be fast. So all these kind of things actually differs the answers, differs the response from one user to another users. Okay. All right, so if we go back to here, let me just go back to, I have actually prepared everything just in case if I couldn't access today, then there's no purpose of having the training this morning. So that's why I actually created, or I've actually run all the prompt so that I can go through the prompts when you are trying to run the prompt in your ChatGPT. So in that case, I'm not taking the load on the system for demonstrations today. So, but again, as I said, don't be surprised if you have a different answer from what I have on the screen. Even as I said earlier, even my query last night and my query this morning was the same, but I get different answers. So we have to really anticipate that. Okay, so all right. So what I want to highlight now, since that we have worked with ChatGPT, if you're able to get the answer, it means that you have your ChatGPT running and you can actually start doing the prompt that I'm going to do here. Okay. But before that, any questions, just in case anyone have any trouble accessing or following the ChatGPT demo? The participants is allowed to unmute, right, Dr. Malik?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. All right. So feel free to unmute if you would want to ask any questions, just in case I gone too fast. All right. If not, then let's proceed.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Mira.
Salam, yes, Prof.
This is Prof. Pikul.
Mhm.
I have not used ChatGPT in my class, so I am very, very new.
Okay.
So, may I know what is actually how to use the prompt?
Okay. So if this is your first time using ChatGPT, let me just switch to see whether I can find an empty browser. Let's see. Okay. All right. So if you go to OpenAI, if this is your first time, if you go to OpenAI, okay, so you will come up with this page. And then if you go to login, okay, in my case, I have this page because I've used ChatGPT using a number of accounts. But if this is your first time, I would suggest if it's the page where you have to log in, you can choose the login using Google. Or if you would want to create using other credentials, it's okay. But the problem is, I think it will take longer for you to come up with the prompt. So if this is the same page as what I have here, you can click on ChatGPT. Okay, and then once you have finished all that logging in and whatnot, you will come up with this page. So this is the page in which we can actually ask the question to ChatGPT. So this is what we call as prompt. We can prompt the questions here in this page, in the box here. Does it answer your questions, Prof?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Okay, all right. So if I go back to the slide just now, okay, so later on we're going to create a lesson plan to ensure the continuity between sessions. So we're going to have a look, see whether we can have a lesson plan that sort of help us to recap and then emphasize new topics. And then if possible, we can come up with a few questions, which we're going to cover in the next slides on learning enforcement. Keep in mind, when we have a proper lesson plan, we will be able to actually allow students to ask questions. But before we go into the prompt that I'm going to share with you shortly, I just want to highlight that you have so many parameters. Okay, so you have so many parameters that you can actually test when you're building a lesson plan. First, you can actually use the target language. So for example, I want to create the lesson plan in Bahasa Indonesia, so that and then for the level means like for secondary or for primary school, what is the theme, what is the lesson time, what is the delivery method. So these are some of the prompt which you can actually, some of the parameters which you can actually exercise in developing the lesson plan. And let me just give you sample prompt so that you can test in your ChatGPT. The one that I'm sharing with you is the somewhat, I would call it as a perhaps template, which perhaps you would want to adjust and then fill with the information relevant to your course. Okay, so if I can just, so if you go to your the docs that I shared with you just now, sorry. So you would be able to see this prompt. Okay, you can copy and paste to ChatGPT and then replace this, for example, for undergraduate, and then what is the course name, what is the durations of your session, and then the topics, what is the topic of the day, if there's any class concept that you would want to highlight, what is the delivery method. It could be like face-to-face, it could be blended learning, it could be any delivery method that you feel that you will want to use for that particular sessions, and what is the objective of this lesson. This is the more precise, the better you will get in terms of response, because ChatGPT would be able to identify, oh, these are the parameters that I should be considering when I'm crafting my answer. So let me just share with you mine. Okay, so this is my prompt. Let me just make it bigger so it's easier for everyone to see. All right, so create a lesson plan that I can use for my undergraduate level in database programming course. So I'm teaching database programming next semester. The length of the class session is 80 minutes. Theme of the session, the theme of the lesson is data restricting rows and sorting data, joining data, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so please don't get distracted with this long title, but this is actually the term class concept that we have. And delivery method is blended learning. Okay, so this is what I mentioned just now. You can have face-to-face, you can have asynchronous if it's self-directed learning and whatnot. So this is, you can actually adjust. My objective for this lesson is to facilitate students understanding and retrieving data from multiple entities in database. Okay, so this is the answer from ChatGPT. Okay. It says this lesson is designed for an 80 minutes class session during blended learning approach. And it highlights the objective, it highlights the materials, it highlights the session outline. But let's have a look. Introductions, 10 minutes. Theory and concept, 15 minutes. So these are some of the topics perhaps that it suggests some of the topics that perhaps when you are trying to convey about the theory and concept, these are some of the things that you can highlight in the theory and concept. I should highlight about the where clause, I should highlight about the order by clause, introduce the concept of joins. Okay, so just want to highlight again on the duration. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes is already like 55 minutes. Hands-on 20 minutes, 75 minutes, blended 10 minutes, 85 minutes, and so on. It's already passed. So when you look at this, you're wondering, I clearly asked for 80 minutes, didn't I? Why do I get a lot of these extra activities? So you can actually ask if ChatGPT is trying to outsmart you, saying that, oh, no, 80 minutes is not enough. Then you can just ask, what is the total durations of the above lesson plan? It says the total durations is 105 minutes. This is the 80 minutes class session duration you initially mentioned. So as you can see in here, so it tries to defend, but to fit the lesson within the 80 minutes class sessions, you may need to make adjustment. So it actually give you, okay, so if that doesn't work, this is the other options. So it gives another options for blended learning and hands-on and so forth. So you are allowed to recall, to improve the answer that you have got from ChatGPT. And in fact, this is one of the process that how we come up with good answer is that you keep sharpen the answer that you have from ChatGPT. This is very commonly practice. So you don't feel like this is the answer or this is the only thing I can accept. No, you can actually improve the prompt. Okay, and you can actually ask further in the file that I shared with you. I clearly mentions that you can actually improve the prompt, right? So in here, you can actually improve the prompt. For example, the key teaching approach that I want to use is what? The students' interactions is what? So you can actually improve the prompt again. So in this case, I'll improve the lesson plan. The key teaching approach that I want to use is project-based. I want to use a project-based approach. And the student interactions format is in pair. So it will come up with another answer. Okay, so lesson plan for project-based learning, retrieving data from multiple entities in the database. This is the objective. This is the materials, this is the class session outline, and so on and so forth. So you probably have a different answer in your ChatGPT, which is fine. But what is important is that you can, again, refine this. So this is at least give you some ideas. Okay, so I can structure my class in this kind of format. Then in the class, of course, you probably would want to have a different way on highlighting the pair formations. Probably you would want to have a random pair formations, or probably you want to pre-assign the pair formations and so on and so forth. So the way you conduct, of course, it is acceptable to be different. And in fact, it's not only acceptable, it is expected to be different from what you have here. This is a plan, but it helps you to run the sessions. But at the end of the day, you are the subject matter expert. Of course, you can actually adjust and arrange or edit the time according to your key points that you would want to emphasize in the class. But at least having this would help you to see what are the learning outcomes again, which is interestingly, many of our students complain that some of the assessment are not really relate to the learning outcome. So apparently we have been taking our course for granted. We forget that probably the course have been refined in the Senate, and a lot of learning outcomes, or some of the learning outcomes actually have changed, and we still use the same slides from 10 years ago. I hope none of us here are doing that, but if we have, probably it's a good idea now that we have the tools, maybe you can have a look again on the learning outcomes, see whether it is fit to your teaching materials that you have been using in the class. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Perhaps you would want to try first. Or is there any questions? Okay. It's like having a personal PA, and indeed. And the PA who never strikes, right? I'm glad in CPD I have a good PA, so I'm kind of like, now I have two PAs. I have the person PA, which is taking care of me, and I have a ChatGPT PA, which is taking care of me in the class. So it's good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, free PA indeed. Okay, it will make us lazy to think our own, but will help us. No, I think in a way it makes us think deeper. When I look at these tools, it makes us think deeper, and it, in fact, for me, it triggers my habit of readings again, making sure the answer that I've been getting from ChatGPT is correct. So I always, especially when it comes to certain class concept, I usually would have a look on relevant references, see whether that was the right references that we can actually still refer to in the class, because especially in my domain, there's a lot of things that have changed in the past, especially when something as trivial as database programming. Okay, so you're using Plus upgrade version. Okay, at the moment, no, I'm using the free one, but my roommate has the premium one. Yeah, so usually I will use my roommate's account if I need something that is more accurate. What is the difference between the free versions and the paid versions? The paid versions, interestingly, I'm not promoting ChatGPT though, but because I've borrowed the premium account, it's a lot more interesting in terms of they can actually give a lot more references, and they have DALL-E, which is you can actually come up with an image using the prompt, like for example, create an image of a class with the lecturers facing the computers and all those kind of things, and then it will generate an image for you. So that's what comes with the premium account. Okay. Okay, I'm afraid the students ask the lecturer to follow ChatGPT to teach efficiently. That's if the students have low expectations of the lecturers, because ChatGPT can only write answer. We can talk, we can give our attention. ChatGPT doesn't do that. So if they want us to teach like ChatGPT, too bad, your expectation is too low. I'm giving you beyond your low expectation. So I think we should give that kind of confidence to the students. Okay, all right. I think we have all the questions. Let's proceed to the next one. I'm very good. Now that I'm dealing with ChatGPT, all of the interactions is me and text. So please feel free to unmute. Okay, I would want to have it as humanized, as as personal as, I mean, like in life. It's like I'm talking to a person, not a text in the chat box. Okay, so right. Just again, as I said earlier, now that we have a better lesson plan, I hope that now we can actually plan for more rooms in the class, for more times in the class, to give opportunity for the students to ask questions and clarify learning goals and expectations. So just know if their expectations is for us just to deliver knowledge, just to like, okay, so definitions of A, definitions of B, that is what ChatGPT does. But in my class, I'm going to make sure you understand those informations. You can bring it to the class, but I will help you to know which one is valid, which one is not valid, because I am the subject matter expert. I think that's how we should level the conversations in the class. Okay. Okay, so we have Dr. Norbik here. What is the difference? What my advice compared BART and ChatGPT? I haven't used a lot of BART, but I use Bing. Compared to ChatGPT, I would still prefer the one that we are using at the moment. Not so much because of certain preferences, but because maybe I don't know whether you have heard the terms hooked. Sometimes innovators, they want to be early so that they can hook you. Maybe I have been hooked into the interface of ChatGPT, which is plain, no fancy, no link to nothing. It's just a plain text. I think I'm comfortable with that. But I'm very sure people would have different preferences. What do you think on using this for our official document, like designing course outline? This is one of the things that people have talked actually, but recently I'm following the UNESCO ethical something which they're going to have it at a forum, if I'm mistaken, soon, on how we come up with a good skill set. Remember, ChatGPT refer on the data sets which is 2 years ago. Some of the skill sets may be obsolete. So if we are referring to ChatGPT, we will be potentially producing an obsolete skill. And keep in mind, our talent will finish, our students will finish the program. If it's a 3-year program, in the next 3 years. So we are based on our skill set 2 years ago, which may no longer be relevant. And we are producing them for the next 3 years, which even worse, because that will be a totally different game changer, totally different occupations perhaps. So I think for aligning, for giving you ideas on what kind of activities you can use in the class, in your programs, I think that is very much relevant. You can use these tools, but to come up with a program for the future, I would very much hesitate, because it doesn't have that currency of being current. So I don't think I would want to produce a program in the next 3 years or 4 years in which the program was triggered by a system which is obsolete, which is have no idea what is happening in the last 2 years. So that's probably my answer to some of the question here in the chat box. Okay, so another question which is commonly asked is, what is your opinion about students using ChatGPT for their assignment? I encourage. It's not I forbid, I encourage for them to use ChatGPT for their assignments. But my assessment is not based on what they produce on the ChatGPT. In fact, what my assessment is whether they know what they have produced using ChatGPT. And most of our students are having difficulties in that. So if they want to write a reports on certain case, which I use the some of the case studies in the previous course, because I'm teaching business data analytics, so I'm using some of the cases. And I want them to actually use or have a look on ChatGPT response on these particular cases. In the class, I'm not assessing the result that coming from ChatGPT, but I'm going to, but what I did was I'm asking them to explain what have they learned from that results. Do they own, do they have the same opinion as what being summarized by ChatGPT from the references which has happened 2 years ago? And all those kind of things. I think we should have a look at assessment from different perspective now that we have a lot of tools like this. In other words, what I want to highlight is we have been having calculators, right, in our life. Imagine if the students imagine if we have a kids and the kids never learn to use calculators until the university, for example, or until they are working. How would you feel? I think it will be sad, right? Like, technology is there, like you have to solve the math complex problem using pen and paper, which is sometimes it may not be like you need the time, the speed on solving certain things, but because they have learned and my children have part of the curriculum, I'm glad that they have actually used this calculator since grade 3 or 4, sorry, 4. So they have been using all these kind of tools to actually come up with research with certain calculations. I think this is good because you have the mental model when you are learning to add things manually, and then you have a tools how to add things to your process to make it more efficient. And then now you are looking at more at optimizing processes. So I think this is how we should look at on skills, because for your information, most of the businesses today doesn't start things from scratch, because even in the domain of programming, which is from IT, some of the companies actually using the code generated from ChatGPT, and they want the programmers to improve, to optimize, to come up with a better programs that what ChatGPT can actually produce, because there's a lot of review. ChatGPT produces a lot of bugs when it comes to the program. So this is where the critical thinking actually plays a role. Okay. All right. If I wrote the same questions, would it give me the same answer? As I said earlier, I asked the same question last night. I got different answer. This morning, different answer. Different, not totally different, but sometimes it's a lot more concise, and sometimes you get a more elaborated one. It depends probably on which data sets that they were able to access during when you ask the questions in the prompt. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. May I share my
Sure, please.
Yeah, okay. And first, thank you for your sharing today about ChatGPT. And actually, to be frank, I was pessimist about ChatGPT before, but when I see an email, Prof. Mira is going to talk about ChatGPT, wow, okay, I need to consider this lah. And thank you for your sharing today. And I'm going to share my experience. I'm Muhammad Adli Marasdi from Selpet, Gambang, and I'm teaching Arabic language, Quranic language. So I think I'm looking at ChatGPT as Google Lens. Okay, if you know Google Lens, before this we use when I am teaching student Arabic, and then they need to translate text. They will type the word in Google Translate before. Okay, and then word by word, and or sometimes they just type the whole sentence, and then Google Translate will do that for them lah. But nowadays they have Google Lens. No need to type, no need to copy. They just open Google Lens, and Google Lens can translate the whole page at 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, very fast. Okay, I think okay, but I'm not forbid my student to use it lah. I always advise them. You can use Google Lens, but not to be too dependent lah.
Exactly.
Not let Google Lens yang help you everything. You need to know, okay, this might be wrong, this might be right, but you need to recheck it. I think that's the same way we should use ChatGPT.
Exactly. True, exactly. And in fact, my son is having difficulties to learn because one of the courses about Arabic in his school. So Teddy, my roommate, my husband, actually setting up a Moodle environment. And because we want to train him to work with, the only way you can master things is through practice, right? So we want him to exercise using a lot of questions. So he actually generated in ChatGPT, because he has a premium account, he can come up with a lot more prompt, and then he generates 100 questions on the kind of questions that you would want primary schools to learn about Arabic language. And we specifically, this is for grade 6, and the kind of questions, and we import into Moodle using later on I'm going to show you, using icon format. And then what he did was he actually asked his colleagues, which is a native speaker, Prof. Habibi, if I'm mistaken, so I would thank him as well for going through all these questions. And then he gone through some of the questions was not actually correct. So in this case, we know that the quality of the questions produced by ChatGPT is not exactly as what we discussed earlier, is not correct. So
yes,
this is why we still have to play our role as a subject matter expert not all that we produce here is as good quality as if you produced it yourself, but it's nudge our thinking at least. So we know. And then another thing when it comes to language, another thing that ChatGPT doesn't have is the taste of language, which I think as teacher teaching second language, you would want to build that with your students, right? Like I know I still remember when I was in Australia, I'm teaching little kids on how to read Quran, and then one of my friends has just arrived in Australia, and then she was like very confidently, okay, everyone, please, everyone shut up, okay. So she thought that it is the kind of language, it is English, but this is not the kind of language you would want to say to little kids. So the kids say, oh, my mom said I'm not allowed to say shut up. But because she was new to, this is the first time she's teaching in Australia, English is her second language. She didn't realize that the word is not nice to be said in a class. So these kind of things, it is English, it is Arabic, but you don't have that taste of the language. And this is where you as a teacher in teaching second language can actually build with your students. ChatGPT will not be able to teach that taste of the language. Is it
Yes,
okay?
yes, correct. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, Dr. Yusuf.
Just want to ask, because sometimes when I ask ChatGPT to list books pertaining to some certain topics, so it managed to list books, but when I go search through Google, I couldn't find the book
Exactly.
and the authors.
Yep.
So is it the information is correct?
That is when ChatGPT start to hallucinate. Yes, yes, it's not correct. I mean, yes, it's not correct. So it can be like that because somehow probably it actually refers to some data sets in which the information was obsolete or no longer available or was not structured correctly. So it actually pointed out to certain reference. I've experienced that a lot. That the book doesn't exist actually. But this is why our students need to know when you are getting a list of references from ChatGPT, not necessarily those references actually exist. So do the homework, going through all that references again. So I think we can highlight that to the students. They should know the values of the information. Now the skill is on how you can value the information, whether you can verify the information. That the skill of the future, not on just copy paste the content. But yes, Dr. Yusuf, that is.
So we need to verify back at least the information back to Google and to check, right?
That's what ChatGPT advised us when we first log in. Yes, we have to verify. Thank you. All right. If you don't mind, let me just proceed to the next one. And then hopefully we have more times to discuss after this. Let me just show you how we can actually come up with the assessment. Just now you have come up with the lesson plan, right? Now we're going to have a look how we can come up with some activities to enforce the learning. So we're going to create a low stakes opportunities for the students to practice before we ask them to perform, before coming to the exam or midterm. Give them a flavor of the course or flavor of the topics by giving a low stakes opportunities. And we can do that using ChatGPT. Let me just copy the prompt so that again you can try with me. I'm giving you, as usual, I'm giving you the generic prompt, but you are more than welcome to play around with filling up the prompt or giving some additional information to the prompt that fits to your course. Okay. Okay, so if you have a look on the link that I shared with you just now, let me just go back to the ChatGPT that I have. You have the prompt there. Let me show you what I have here. So at least it is a lot easier for you to visualize how the output looks like if you have difficulties to access ChatGPT. Okay, so this is what next. Okay, so we finished with all this. I'm going to improve the learning plan. Improve the lesson plan, and then I will adjust to what I feel is the right thing to cover in the class. Okay, so this is just to give the ideas, right? But we are the subject matter expert. We know how to maneuver the certain topic in the class because we have that experience. So now, but I would want to know, how can I know whether my students have understood? So usually I will ask about 3 to 5 questions in the class. Usually I would put it in iTalim so that after I cover the hands-on, after I cover the topics, okay, so before you leave, if anyone have finished, no more questions, you can actually log into iTalim for about 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and then just answer these questions on the learning enforcement. So you can actually have a look at the end of the class, see whether they would able to ask the questions. But in here, I ask, instead of 5, I'm asking 10 MCQs. So that at least I know the kind of questions that I can pick, because we've discussed this now, right? Sometimes the question is not up to our standard. Sorry, the answer is not up to our standard. So the same thing in here, we should get more so that we have some rooms for selecting that suitable for our course. So in this case, these are 10 multiple choice questions. If you have a look here, generate 10 multiple choice questions that assess the students' understanding of the concept covered in the above lesson plan. If you are in the same sessions as what I have now, because I'm asking the questions one after the other within the same session, so I would suggest that maybe you, rather than copy paste the entire lesson plan, and well, just like refer it like the above lesson plan. I'm very sure it's a lot easier, and ChatGPT still remember it because it just gave you the answer for the lesson plan. So I requested the answer to be to include the answer to the question. So in this case, I've been given 10 questions. So I browsed through all these and the proposed questions from ChatGPT. Some I could say is true. Some of the questions I think needs to be improved. Some questions probably it's not suitable for my course because it's too fundamental, too basics, which should have been covered in the previous course. So I can have that kind of way if I have more options, right? When you have more options, then you have ideas what to pick. So from here, you can pick some, and then if you would want to copy it to iTalim, because we have question bank, right? You can actually have a look on CPD past training. There are certain videos on how you can actually import the questions to the question bank. I would suggest that you change the format to icon format. So this is the format in which we can actually easily import the questions up to the question bank, and it will, voila, it's actually give you the questions in icon format. So if you copy the code, copy to Notepad, upload to question bank in iTalim. I don't know, my brain suddenly stopped just now. So you will be having a lot more efficient time to prepare for other things, because okay, so the learning enforcement done, the lesson plan done. If you would want to have some other activities which ChatGPT didn't do just now, you can add that to your lesson or to your teaching plan, to your course plan. Okay, so this is what the assessment, the low stakes assessment can help you or your students to sort of engage in the class teaching and learning process. Okay, all right. Okay, so next, before we have another question and answer session, I would, again, I think I have mentioned about this earlier. Think beyond tests and papers. Give students multiple ways and opportunities to reflect upon and demonstrate their learning growth. My observations from many years teaching, especially fourth-year courses, the things that makes me sad is that they're really good in recalling concept, in remembering things. But when I'm giving the kind of questions that I want them to analyze, I want them to come up with a propose or recommend a solutions, they're having a hard time to actually give that kind of solutions. I can say maybe like 10-15% were able to do it, but majority were having hard time to come up with this kind of analysis. Perhaps because we have been training them to memorize. So I think now with this, the system can memorize the concept. So now we ask them to do the things that people should do, which is we analyze things, we question things, we celebrate inquiries. So I think this is where we can actually do that in our assessment. So when you have that recalling concept, and then the next class, what you would do, have you tried that code at home, and were you able to come up with the right answer, retrieving data from multiple tables? So you have that kind of opportunities because the concept was done. Okay, so maybe that's what I would suggest. And the next one is rubrics. Okay, it's another thing that also comes a lot in our survey, especially during the pandemic, with the students, is that many of them were not clear with how the lecturer is actually assessing the assessment, especially when it comes to projects, when it comes to thesis, essay, maybe not thesis. This is usually we have a one-to-one conversations, right? But for essays or reports, usually they got the marks, but what is actually being assessed, it was verbally explained in the class, but how that is different from one person to another, from one group to another groups were not transparent. So perhaps one of the things for us to actually improve the assessment is by giving a rubrics to guide the students, and in here, promotes equal treatment, reduce students' anxiety, and it allows the students to track their own progress. How can we actually do this? Again, I have one document which I'll be more than happy to share this later on with everyone, is that one of the things when we want to have a rubric is that we want to make sure that the transparent assignment that will eventually boost the students' academic confidence, sense of belonging, mastery of the skills that employers actually value the most when they are hiring. Okay, and there's articles on this which I think we can reflect upon in preparing the rubrics. So let me share with you the prompt, again, a generic prompt in which you probably would again customize to your course. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you have the document, you can have a look. I have just pasted one prompt again. Okay. Let me just go back to the ChatGPT that I have. Okay, so you can try again later on. This is what I have. So we can have more time for discussion later on. But if I can just highlight what I get from my ChatGPT session was, I get the rubric. It gives me the title. We can actually fill in with the project title. We can replace with the group members if you have. So it can kind of like give you the format already, like what would you get in the rubrics. But if in here, as you can see in here, I'm not sure whether you're comfortable with this. So it has criteria, unsatisfactory, basic, blah, blah, blah. So criteria 1, the 4 categories. Criteria 2, the 4 categories. Criteria 3. So I'm not sure whether you are the list person, the kind of person who prefer list rather than table. I'm very visual. I usually would request tabulated rather than in the list like that. So I, instead of having it in the list, like what we have earlier, I requested ChatGPT format the above rubric in a table format. So ChatGPT give me this table. Database design, these are the 4 scale, data modeling and so on. So this give me some ideas. Okay, so probably all these will have been giving wrong parameters, but these are not different parameters, which probably doesn't really hit the learning outcome. But now that I can see this, I can perhaps looking at on my old rubrics and I can improve it. And this again, as I said, this is just a guideline. It is not must to have a must comply kind of document. I don't think any of this document is something that you have to follow as is. You are more than welcome. In fact, as I said earlier, ChatGPT recommended. But I know some of the lecturers doesn't feel like having 4 categories. This is too, you don't have a lot of rooms to see the difference. So usually I would have 5 categories. So instead of 4 categories, I want to change the scale into 5 categories. These categories are unsatisfactory, basic, intermediate, proficient, and advanced. So you can have here the 5 categories: unsatisfactory, basic, intermediate, proficient, and advanced. And each and every of these would have the category, the descriptions. I'm not sure whether it has descriptions here, probably because I scale up, so it doesn't really show. But you should have all informations here. When you copy and paste, you would be able to see that all columns have their own criteria for each and every of these items. Okay, so you can actually have a look on some of the answer that you have here. But again, as I said, you are, of course, you are allowed to customize it in such a way you can improve the prompt further up to the level that you are satisfied with the answer. And if you feel that you would want to sharpen it, you can sharpen it later on after you download the documents. You can do it in your free time, reflect upon the things that being recommended by ChatGPT. Perhaps this is not something that you are looking for to begin with, then maybe you can try again using the same prompt. Maybe you would get a different answer, which is to what you have expected to come from ChatGPT. So this is why don't feel like once and enough. Okay. The last one, which is I've been giving you a lot of examples because my domain is programming. So I think a lot of examples are very much on programming just now, but this is also interesting for you that is teaching social sciences, because you can come up with case studies and discussions using ChatGPT. I've attended some webinar on teaching with cases from some universities in US, because they are into this kind of pedagogy, right? Teaching with cases, case studies, debate, discussions. So how the lecturers come up with the case is very interesting on how they prompt ChatGPT in producing certain cases. So let me just give you some examples which I got from one of these webinars. Again, let me just. Okay, so this is the last one. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is the last example. It gives you the case for discussion. So it's very interesting that the instructors give the introductions of who is the users that actually request this information. So I am the faculty member in the school of, so maybe you can put your the name of the faculty. For example, I'm a faculty member in the school of human science. Draft some potential questions for sessions that I teach by the case method. The case I use for the session is, what is the title of the case? So for example, the mental health among higher education institutions students, which highlights the issues on the recent mental health cases in Malaysia, for example. And then the case protagonist is, if you have any cases that recently brought up to the surface by media, maybe you would want to highlight that in the case as the case protagonist, and then some of the details on the persons, and then key passages in the case cover the debate over what is the concept that you would want to come up in this case study, and suggest 10 questions I might ask related to these passages. Okay, so you would have, I didn't actually try this because I couldn't just know when I come up with this, I couldn't think of any cases that I would want to do in the class next semester, but you are more than welcome to try. Probably some of you who are teaching economics, you would want to try with some concept. Some of you teaching in psychology, in any social science domains, you probably have some cases that very pertinent that you would want to bring next semester. Then you can try using this. if you have tried this, I would suggest to also improve the prompt by asking, let's take question 1. So you can actually, because it gives 10 questions, right? So you can actually prompt by asking, let's take question 1 or let's take question 3. Can you suggest some academic concept or frameworks that discussions of these questions could illuminate? So this is one of the things that we can again have a look on the concepts that we have covered in the past classes. See whether we have covered the concept that we will cover in this case studies. If we haven't, then probably we should highlight some of the concept. This is due in the next 3 weeks, but this concept I will cover next week. So you have ample time to think about the case studies while I'm trying to deliver the concept in stages. So this is some of the things that perhaps we can actually ask in the social science classes. Okay, so I think that's all for today. I know it's a lot. I hope it's not too much, but I really hope it's not enough because when it's not enough, you will try to dig more. And feel free to let me know in any way I can assist you so that there will be less anxiety and more excitement in using the technology, because our students have run so fast using all this technology, but sometimes when they run too fast, they don't know where is the direction. So this is where we can actually guide them, help them, letting them know that this technology will give meanings if you know the directions of how you can using it meaningfully in learning process. Okay, so I think that'll be all. But if there's any questions, since that we have a few more minutes, anyone feel free to unmute.
Prof Mira.
Yes, Prof.
Once again, a silly question. What is the difference between ChatGPT and Google search?
Okay, Google search is how ChatGPT works is using the LLM, large language model. So it actually looking at all the data that it has in the public domains, and then it will actually trains to make meanings out of the abundance of data that I have in the public domain, the internet. So as they claim they don't have access to any personal information, they don't have access to secure databases, which is not part of the public domains. But again, they also mentioned that the data was actually up to September 2021, which is in Google. If you search something, for example, teaching plan. Okay, so say I'm going to ask these questions. Okay, so if you have this with the search engine, what it does is actually it tries to accumulate all of the answer, all of the documents, all of the data that it can actually reach. Of course, they will not be able to access, by right, they should not be able to access something that is confidential, but everything in the public domain, they would be able to index it. They come up with index, not with formulated answer. So they don't process the answer, except they index the answer. And in here, we can actually come up with the requirements, say, I want to have something that has been published in the past 24 hours. And there you go. You have a list of resources that come up in the past 24 hours. ChatGPT was not able to do this because their last training data is September 2021. So some of the references some of the answer that you come up with in the ChatGPT prompt, from the prompt, is actually as obsolete as 2 years ago. So if you are asking something that is recently happened, it doesn't have that coverage. It's not silly, Prof. It's very important questions. So thank you so much for asking that.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Anyone else?
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Mira.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, Dr. Adlina.
Yeah. Prof, I have a question here. Thank you for a very superb explanation on this. I learned a lot. Okay. Earlier on, I think one of the concerns highlighted by our participants is that the use of when students use ChatGPT, there is a tendency to plagiarize, this issue of plagiarism. So can you please share with us your opinion and maybe your ways of ensuring that when we give tasks for students to complete using ChatGPT, we are ensuring that they don't get involved in this plagiarism issues? How do you mitigate that, Prof. Mira? Thank you.
Okay, let me just give you one website. Okay. Right. I'll give you the link here. So this is one of the tools that you can use to test whether it has AI kind of contents is actually embedded in the answer. Okay, so this is one of the website. It's AI content detector. So you just know you have ChatGPT answer, right? So let's say, let me ask ChatGPT to write a summary or write an essay on mental health in among university students. Write in 300 words. Okay, so ChatGPT will happily give the answer. Okay, so let's just wait until it stops. Okay, let me just probably it takes a while. So let me just copy this. And I copy here. Okay. So at the moment, it actually only allows 1,500 characters. So maybe if you would want to have that, maybe you can shorten it so that you can task here. Okay, so let me just stop here. So it's okay. So it's black now. I can run this. Okay. If you are using this, a lot of algorithm that actually generates AI content, most have actually kind of adapt in such a way that it becomes a generated content, a human generated content. Even this is actually one of the things that being recommended by some universities to test whether it is actually come up from AI. As you can see in here, it's actually detect it's human generated content. But if you come up with the questions, or if you come up with the kind of structures that really specific, once you copy, I've tested last time, I couldn't remember the prompt, but it can actually detect very clearly. If it's just an essay, it gives you 100% generated content. But if you come up with certain criteria or certain cases, especially the recent cases, for example, again, if we come up with a prompt on, say, on recent cases. So I'm going to refine this. You can actually refine this, right? Oops, sorry. Let me just, okay. So you can actually refine this, right, on mental health among university students based on the recent cases in X university in Malaysia that happens 2 weeks ago. Okay, so you can actually come up with if you copy this to this one, the one that I have just now, you would be able to see a lot of this is actually come up from AI algorithm rather than an assessment of certain things, because this case may not be the case that you are actually referring to. And this is where we can actually see whether the quality of the answer really fits to your expectations. Because again, as I said, students, if you are looking for essay, ChatGPT can write essay. But if you're looking for quality essay that fits to your marking criteria, I doubt that students would be able to do that without thinking. This could actually help, but this will not be able to fulfill your criteria exactly as is. So what I would suggest, actually, let them write the essay if they want to, but bring this essay to the class and you discuss, you give them the room for them to explain the class concept, how this essay relate to the class concept that you have in the class. You can see the difference between the students who know how to use the system and the students who just trying to fulfill the request of producing essay. It's very obvious. I've tried in the class, very obvious. So hopefully once you try it in your class, you will be able to see the difference too.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have passed the time. So I'll return back the sessions to Dr. Malik. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Mira, for a very interesting and fruitful session. Before we probably go to another, I don't know whether we can have another round of 1 or 2 questions, but I just want to ask the participants if you are comfortable. Can you switch on your webcam for a photo session, for a quick web photo session?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. So, okay. Let's take the first screenshot. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Second page. We have full house for today's event. It's probably an interesting topic that we have. Is why lots of participants are interested to join. Probably this is a free session with free ChatGPT. Probably the next session we have a session with a paid version of ChatGPT, possibly with a paid participation. Just kidding. All right. Okay. So I have taken some of the snapshots of the participants here. Is there any one last question, or perhaps 2 questions from the participants? Any burning question that you would like to ask?
Maybe
Okay,
everyone's hungry.
Pardon me?
Maybe everyone's hungry, Dr. Malik.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so so I guess that's the end of this session. So Alhamdulillah. So we would like to thank our speaker, Prof. Mira, for delivering a very interesting topic. So we would also like to thank all the participants for attending this talk. And make sure you don't forget to fill up the evaluation form that has been posted in the comment, and also probably later it will be posted or emailed to you. Okay, so I guess that's it for today. Let's end today's event with Tasbih Kifarah and Suratul Asr. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Mira. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.